Okay, good morning. So we are up to today doing Yud Zayin Amud Beis. We are in the middle of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. So a couple of things that we didn't get a chance to touch on yesterday, I just wanted to hit on now. We had concluded the Gemara that Rebbe said, Oimrani, also lishtos yayin lo'olam. Rebbe says Oimrani, which we pointed out already. We had that lashon on Beis and Beis. Rebbe says, if it was up to me, I would aser up drinking wine always. Avol ma'aseh shetakanose kakolose. What am I going to do that this takana is essentially a kilkul? It doesn't work. It's not going to work. And Abaya said, Amar Abaya, Kiman shasu idna, kahani chamra. How do we have kahanim drinking wine nowadays? Kirebi. They're doing it like Rebbe. So where we left off sort of yesterday is this follow. Number one, I wanted to point out there's machlekes here Rishonim about how to learn where Rebbe's takana was. Look at Rashi for a moment. Rashi says, Rebbe Amrani, Klemer, if I'm worried about Shami Bana Beis HaMikdash from Yameinu, and we're going to have a situation where we have to work in the Beis HaMikdash, and the Gehanim are going to be drunk, and it's possible to have Shiyayin doing the Aveda, so we have to answer it up. Can't have them, because maybe the Beis HaMikdash will be built right now. Can't take the risk. That's clearly from Rashi. And that is to say, when is Rebbe's Gezerah? We don't pass like, but the theoretical Gezerah, because we want the Beis to come right now, and maybe it'll come right now, and maybe if the Kahanim are drinking, they'll be drunk, they won't be able to do that Avodah. So we should always answer them from drinking. It's Bizman Hazeh, after the Korban, that we want to try to ensure that they'll be ready to go to rock and roll if the Beis should come. Yeah? That's Rashi. Look at the Rabbeinu Gershom. Rabbeinu Gershom says, Rabbi Omer Amrani, Im Haya Kohen Bizman Beis Hamikdash Kayam. If the Kohen Gadol, if it was a Kohen during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, in a Makim Mishmarto and Mishmaris Beis Av Shaloi, if he doesn't know what family he's from, then Asta Lishtas Yain Loilam. Aval Ma'as Shel Takanta Kalkulosa Klem Rachub Beis Hamikdash Shehei Kalkulosam Takantam. Right? Well, Rabbi says, what can I do? The Churban Beis Hamikdash came along as Mekakal Takana Lishtas Yain Ki Rabbi Dam Shetakanos Kakalose. Avchakam Ma'imim Ein Mutar on La'olam Kadesh Yi Consul Mishmartim Shkishehem Menuvalan Shashiyon She'en Yichel Nasab L'Chabes etc. What does it sound like from Rabbeinu Gershom? What was the impetus of Rabbi's theoretical Gezerah? It's not post. Right? Takanta Kalkulosa comes along of Bizman Hazeh, it doesn't work because the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. And the impetus was when the Beis Hamikdash was Kayim. Then you had a Kayin who doesn't know which Mishmaris he is, he doesn't know what situation, so he cannot drink because he may one day find out and he has to go do the service. Whereas the Pasha way is understanding, like Rashi, that we're talking about when the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed. When the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, we're hoping it'll be rebuilt. And that's the impetus of Rebbe's Takana. So the difference between the Rabbeinu Gershom's understanding and Rashi's. That's number one. Number two, Rabbeinu Chananel here adds in a very beautiful point that I didn't think of. This is my kind of a point that I normally would think of. So it's great to see Rabbeinu Chananel. It happens to be on Amud Beis. I didn't notice it. So in Amud Beis, he points out that the Gemara, the famous Gemara, the Gemara in Samachay, the Gemara tells us in Ksuba Samachay, after Abaye and Rava died, after Abaye died, so Rava says that in terms of the Abaye is from Bnei Eli, he dies at 60 years old. He lives longer than Rava because he has Torah, Ma'is, and Tovim. Right, whether that's Rava the Gemara there or Rabba, a whole long thing. Whether around now Rava was a Kain, Rosh Hashanah Yitzayin, like there's a lot here. Can't get into it. The simple is the Gemara Ksuba Samachay says that, and we know also the Gemara Brachas and Araya about the different dreams of Barhedya. So Bekitzer Maisa, so after Abaya dies, so Rava says to the wife of Abaya, Yadana Bebe Nachman. I know that Abaya didn't drink too much wine. So the Rabbeinu Chananel is pointing out that Abaya says in our Gemara, Kiman Shasu in Kahana Chamra. How do Kahanim nowadays drink wine? They're drinking wine on the basis of the fact that they are relying on Rebbe. And as we'll see today, the Rabbanan disagree. Rebbe says that really there should be an issur for the Kahanim to drink wine. From this line, we wouldn't know about the Rabbanan. Later on, we'll see. Rebbe says, I'm ready that there should be an issur for Kahanim drinking wine. Maybe Ben Gershon, maybe Rashi. Let's go with Rashi. It's Bizman Hazeh. But we can't do it. It doesn't work. Hakanta kalkalasi, it's just not going to work. You have everybody never drink wine. It doesn't work. Okay. So if it doesn't work, then the Kahanim are allowed to drink wine. Says Abaya, Kahanim Bizman Hazeh. Who do they rely on in order to be able to drink wine? Rebbe. Says the Rebbe Nechanan, a beautiful Gemara in Ksuba Samachay says that when Abaya passed away and his wife came to the court and she wanted to have a certain provisions under the Ksuba, one that she wanted was a certain provision of wine. So Rava says, I know that Nachmani didn't drink so much wine. So you don't have to be provided for with so much wine. You're not used to it. Says Rebbe Nechanan, why? Because the whole basis of drinking wine of Kahanim Bizman Hazeh is Rebbe. Abaya is saying that's the only way the Kahanim have a heter to drink wine. But it doesn't mean that Abaya himself held that you're allowed to drink wine. Abaya himself could hold like the Rabbanan, they held you're not allowed to drink wine. And that's the reason why Rava said to the wife of Abaya after Abaya passed away, you're not going to get a lot of wine because I know that your husband didn't drink wine. Why? Because he didn't hold like the Rebbe, he held like the Rabbanan, that it's also for Kahanim Bizman Hazeh to drink wine. He was machmir himself, and that's why he didn't drink wine. Beautiful Menachanal. Okay. I never thought of that Gemara to connect that Gemara to this Gemara. That's what he says. Ever, yeah. Now, ever. Now, you're asking a good question, and that's what I want to focus on next. Is that what is the Havamina of this of Rebbe? There's a Gemara in Bava Basra Samach Lamed Beis, the end of the parak. The Gemara there in Bava Basra Samach Lamed Beis says that if you're going to have a situation where you have takana that ein roiv hatzibur yochel lamid by, don't make that takana. And the context over there is that after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, they wanted to make it usher to drink wine and eat meat. So Rabbi Shua says, no, we don't do this. Rabbi Shua says basically, if this is the case, that as an honoring of the Beis Hamikdash destruction, we're mamish getting into Tammuz now, right? It's the season. So you're going to answer up eating meat. Why? Because the meat of the karbanos. You're going to answer up drinking wine because the nisa chayayin. And you got so Rabbi Shua, you should also answer up eating fruit. Fruit is bikur. You should answer up eating bread because bread is karb mincha. And you should answer up drinking water because it needs a chamay. I mean, basically answer up living. The Rishur says we don't do this. We have different ways of honoring the memory of the lost Beis Hamikdash, but we're not going to answer up meat and wine. There were people, the Gemara says, they rub out Perushim, people didn't want to get married after the destruction of Beis Hamikdash. Like unbelievable, the loss, what they felt. Fine. But the Gemara concludes there at the end of the parak that Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, right? We had him obviously brachas a couple of times, right? He has conversations with angels and with the Rebbe Shalom, whatever that means. So he says the following line, which becomes a halacha, a famous halacha, right? We're not metaken a takana ala tzibur elim kein reivat tzibur yichayim lamid. If they can't be, we're not going to metaken it. So therefore, he says we cannot be metaken not eating meat or drinking wine because nobody can handle it. So I'm asking you now, what's Rebbe's havamina? Forget if the Rabbanan disagree. What's Rebbe's havamina? How can you make a gezer on kahanim that they can never drink meat or eat wine? How's that going to be something that they can manage? What's the havamina of Rebbe? Rebbe himself rejects it. But what's the havamina? I thought that it should be. I'm ready. It should be like this. If not for takanta kakala. So hold on. So the what's the difference? Okay. All right. So very good. So that's one possible answer I was thinking about, right? Which the Gemara tells us in many places in Shas, including let's say in Shabbos, Chav, or a couple places in Shabbos, and many Mesechus we find the idea of Kahanim is reasoning. Kahanim are different. They have special their internal genetics make them different. They have the Kayan gene. I have no idea, but they're fundamentally different. Maybe by them it's different. So maybe that was the Havmin of Rebbe. Maskana, no, Rebbe doesn't say, but at least in theory, maybe. The other possibility was that I was thinking is that maybe there's a difference between um, the this idea of making a gezer on the tzibur because of the sadness of the Beis Hamikdash, the loss, avelus of the Beis Hamikdash, versus the meheru yibana Hamikdash. In other words, when was there Shmuel ben Elisha saying we can't be guys with the gezerah? That says avelus. It's not hopeful; it's sad. But for the Kahanim, it's a hopeful thing. Maybe there's a difference in the kind of a takana. If you're doing a takana, which is just like basically keep you down all day, sad all day, okay, and it's ibichon lama, but it's not going to work. But if the idea of the gezerah is something hopeful, like hey, Yibana Mikdash, maybe it's going to happen today. So maybe that would be different. Maybe these are my two possible ways to explain what Rebbe's Havamina was. All right, let's get moving. Zak the Gemara, two dots. Two dots on Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Anshe Mishmor ve'Anshe Maimin Asurim L'Saper. Remember, these are from the halachas of the Mishnah, which told us various halachas, not just specifically related to the Taanit, but general halachas, right? General halachas. So Anshe Mishmor, Anshe Maimin Asurim L'Saper. The people from the Anshe Mishmor, the Anshe Maimin, they're not allowed to take haircuts during their week, right? And Mula Chabes, they can't do laundry. V'chamishi mutarim and they cover Shabbos. And on the Thursday was mutar because of covered Shabbos. Why Thursday and not Friday? Again, we pointed out, Rashi already mentioned back in the Mishnah that taking haircuts, etc., these things are, long, they're complicated, they take a while. So there's a lot of tircha on Friday, everyone's busy, so better to do it on Thursday. The other thing more, my time, what's the reason that we said these Kahanim cannot take haircuts during their week in the Beis Hamikdash? Because they shouldn't come into their watch while they're menuvalim, while they're disgusting. They should take care of it beforehand. Now, we have a halacha that it's not clearly from this, but it's the same idea, right? Well, it's the same idea is that if you look in the in Shulchan Aruch and Aruch Tov Kuf Lamed Aleph, we have a halacha there about not the Shulchan Aruch writes that you're not supposed to take a shave. You're not supposed to cut your hair on Chol Hamoed. Even, says the Shulchan Aruch, if you already cut your hair before Yantif, right, before the second days, now you want to cut your hair again, says Shulchan Aruch, you shouldn't do it. Why does he put in that language? Even if you already did it before Yantif, says the Mishnah Berurah, because if you didn't do it before Yantif, so then you came in on Yantif looking like a manuval. So for sure, we don't want you to come into Yantif that way in the first place. So in order to make sure that you're not going to, that you're going to take your haircut before Yantif, we say you can't even take it on Yantif, even if you already were taking it before. So then that'll make sure that you for sure will take care of it before Yantif in the first place. It's the same idea. Kedei shelo yavai for the Yantif minuval. Same basic principle. Yeah. Right. So again, we have these kinds of gezeres and gederes on many things. Right. We did about Shema. Right. Why until Chatzos? In order to make sure that you're not going to go back. Same thing over here. We want to make sure you're going to be incentivized to take your haircut before Yantif. Melech Mastab B'chol Yom. It's a halacha. I remember fascinating to me at least that this idea of Melech Mastab B'chol Yom, that the presidents of the United States, I don't know about if every president or whatever, but they say that I think I read it by George Bush maybe, that like every day he would have a shave. Every day, like the barber would come in, maybe spend a minute or 10 minutes, I don't know how long it takes, but to make sure there was a certain look they wanted the president to have, and it should be consistent. So you never see the president with like long hair and then short hair. You never see him like he has a haircut. His head always looks the same. There's, I guess, a certain value in that. So anyhow, I always would connect it to this, to Melech Mastab B'chol Yom. You can't take a haircut every day. Kain Gadol Me'erev Shabbos, Kain Gadol take a haircut once a week. Kain Hegdid Achas L'Shoshim Yom. Kain Hegdid will take a haircut once every 30 days. Melech Mastab B'chol Yom. They want to understand. What do you mean the Melech taking a haircut once every day? My time, Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda Markra. What's the reason for this? So Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda, because we see in the pasuk Melech B'Yafya Techazena. Einacha, right? The king should be seen with his beauty, and obviously being disheveled or unkempt is not considered so beautiful. Therefore, we want to make sure that the king is going to be taking a haircut daily. Kohen Gadol Me'er Shabbos Lev Shabbos. What's the reason the Kohen Gadol takes a haircut once a week? So, right, Erev Shabbos Me'er Shabbos, right, this is also the same lashon Mar Ksubis in terms of Tamar Chacham, Misham Shem Tasim Erev Shabbos Lev Shabbos. Here we mean specifically on Friday. Um, so the reason for that, my time Yitzchak Hurl Mishmaris Mischadshos, because of the new watches. The Rashi here explains that what we mean is that you have the new group of Kahanim coming in every week, right? They have 2 weeks a year that they do, so 1 week and then 1 week. So when they come in, they want the Kohen Gadol should be seen as at the top of his game. So best to have the Kohen Gadol have a nice haircut. So therefore, the Kohen Gadol takes a haircut each week, so the people who are coming in for the new Mishmar should see the Kohen Gadol and his best. Kohen Hedjit Achas L'Shoshem Yom Minola. And how do you know the Kohen Hedjit takes the haircut once every 30 days? What's the reason for that? So Asya para mi Nazir. We learn now para from Nazir. We have a pasuk in Yechezkel. This pasuk happens to be from the Haftarah Parshas Emor, and it happens to be very interesting. I'm sorry for a variety of reasons, but among the most amazing reasons is the fact that it has various different halachas of the Kahuna that maybe we don't see in Chumash, and we'll see a little bit more about that on the base. Yeah, so they go over there. One of the psukim says, "V'roishem lo yigalechu." Ufera lo yishalechu. It's mashma that they are the Kahanim are not going to allow their hair to grow long, right? They don't shave their heads like the Levium, but they also don't let their hair grow long. So version lo yigalechu, they're not like totally bald, right? But ufera lo yishalechu, they're also not letting their hair grow long. Uchsiv hasam, and we have another pasuk. The pasuk here is from Parshas Naso. We just had it. Kadeshia Gadel Perasa Roishay, right? That their hair will be holy, right? This becomes from the famous machlokes between the Rambam and the Ramban as to whether or not the Nazir is a Kadesh or is a Chayta, right? Right. I think we touched on this already before. Right? According to the Ramban, the Nazir is a Kadesh, and the reason he has to bring Karban Chatas after a successful Naziris is because of the fact that he's not continuing the Naziris, right? That's we had the Gemara, if you recall, back on Yud Aleph, right? We discussed this Gemara back on the bottom of Yud Aleph, and so I mentioned that at the time, that famous place between the Rambam and the Ramban. The Rambam says no, the person is a chayt, he's bringing a chatas because he asked himself up to have normal pleasures of the world. So he's a chayt, that's why he has to bring a korban chatas. And when we say that this kedusha is on the hair, it's not that he's done a great thing. It's not a great thing. It's ideally not to be done. Yeah. So we can't go back into that more, but anyhow, that's the where this pasuk comes from. So the Gemara says effectively just like basically by a stam naziris, by a regular nazir, it's 30 days. Avkan shleishim yom. So too, when it's telling you that a new halacha there about the kohen, that he can't let his hair grow long, it means for stam the same para, which means the stam naziris was just 30 days. That's the basic idea of the Gemara. So says the Gemara, really? Gufa, and how do you know mamash that a nazir is 30 days? I'm Rav Masna, stam nazir shloshim yom. There's a stam nazir is normal is considered 30 days. Minol, how do you know that? Amar Kra, we have a pasuk. The pasuk tells the beginning of nazir. The more brings it down over here that yiyeh kadosh yiyeh gadol parasai rosha yiyeh begematria tlos and havi yiyeh is the gematria of 30. Everybody remembers the mission of us, Gimel, right? To Kufos, Ugematria is our Parparois Lachachma. Right? Gematria is considered like dessert. It's a part of wisdom. It's not fundamental. It's extra. It's delicious. Right? If you read The Chosen, the book by Chaim Potok, you know there about all the gematrias and the games that the rabbis were playing with the gematria with the son. Very interesting. Anyhow. For our purposes now, does gematria affect halacha? Seemingly yes. We say Sam Naziras is Shloshim Yom. We'll learn that out of a gematria. But you should know it's a relatively rare thing. It's not something that happens that often. It happens to be the Gemara tells us in the end of Makkas. on Chagil and base. The Gemara over there tells us, famous Gemara. How do we know this Taryag mitzvahs? Taryag mitzvahs only know from a gematria. His Torah is Begamatria 611, and Anoich Elielcha is Mipi Gvura. That's what you get the Taryag mitzvahs. A whole cottage industry was created trying to figure out what are the 613 mitzvahs. You have the Sefer mitzvahs of the Rambam. You have the same mitzvahs of the Bahag. You have the same mitzvahs of Reb Sadigon. You have the Sefer mitzvahs of the Chinuch. You have the Sefer mitzvahs of Geina v'Chaina. People over the years tried to make their Sefer mitzvahs. You have the Smags. You have everybody. Smag. They're all based on the idea of 613. They take it as literal, which is all based on gematria. Yeah. And more Shabbos Yud, Shabbos Ayin Amud Aleph. The more over there tells us. The more over there tells us that the pasuk Vayakel Moshe has called that's been Yisrael Vayemer Aleim Eila Devarim Asher Divar Hashem Lasei Seisam Sheis Yom Teisam Lach L'Svar Shchom Asher Seichem. So the more over there learns that. How you know there's 39 malachas, Avos malachas, 39 Avos malachas learns from Eila Devarim, right? Because you look at what's the gematria of Eila. Lamed is 30. The Hay is 5. Right? The Aleph is 6. That gets you to 36. The Devarim is 2. So that's 38. Hadavar is another one. So 39. 39 Aleph Malachas. That's how you know. From gematria. So you see gematrias that do sometimes, even if the papyrus, the chachma, sometimes do impact halacha. As over here also, we know that a stam nazir is shloshim yaim, and the fact that it says kodesh yeh gadol yeh is a gematria tlasim. Yes, it's not the Gemara. Amalei Rav Papa Abaya. So Rav Papa says to Abaya, "V'dilma achi kam rachmana." Maybe Rav Papa suggests to Abaya, maybe we should learn it differently. That what lirbu cloud, instead of saying that the idea that they have to take a haircut every 30 days, maybe they're not supposed to have any hair at all. So Amalei Havik Kasav lo yishalchu pera. If it would have written the lashon differently, right? The actual lashon is a pera lo yishalechu. But if I had written lo yishalechu pera, so then, then I would agree with you that that would be a reference that they can't let their hair grow at all. The hasa the shiva paralyshlif, and now that it's mashma that their hair cannot be grown, it's mashma really that it can't be grown too long, not that it can't be grown at all. I can't tell you that I really totally understand the difference in terms of the grammar, but I guess it's the emphasis of like what's the focus? Is your focus on the para? Lo yishalif, but you have a para, or lo yishafu para means that the focus on the lo yishafu, therefore you can't grow the para at all. Right? I guess that's maybe how you distinguish it. So says the Gemara. Then hashta the civil para loishalechu. So para lahavish luche hu delay l'shachol. Now that we understand that it's the para that cannot be extended too long. So that means within the 30 days, as we say, from the Gzer Shava para to the Nazir by Parshas Nasai, and that's how we get the idea of the Melech every day. Because we have a pasuk for that one, Melech b'Yafik Techazena Necha, the Kohen Gadol, because it's not right. We don't. It's interesting, right? We have a pasuk for the Kohen Hedjit every 30 days. We have a pasuk for the Melech every day. We don't have a pasuk for the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol is a sort of a svara that he should be seen by the Kahanim who are coming in. He should be seen in his beauty. He should be seen as handsome, not unkempt. Every new mishmar should be able to have that appreciation of the Kohen Gadol, and therefore, for the Kohen Gadol, we actually don't bring a pasuk. Yeah. So Zot Gemara. So now the Gemara says, if that's true, that we're going to say that the Kohen Hedge is not allowed to take a haircut every 30. He has to take a haircut every 30 days. So why don't we say that the Kohen Hedge, should take a haircut every 30 days? This man is that. Why are we discussing this as like a halacha when the Beis Hamikdash was around? Let's discuss it as man as that. Just like drinking wine. Says the more. Well, it should be like drinking wine. Just like when is it also to drink wine? Only during the times when they came to the Beis Hamikdash to do the service. But when it wasn't the time for the Kohanim to be doing the service in the Beis Hamikdash, then it'll be mutter to drink wine. So then, so too over here. So too nowadays. It's true. The Kohanim have to take a haircut every 30 days. If there's a Beis Hamikdash to be worried about. But if there's no Beis Hamikdash to be worried about, so then they shouldn't have to. And nowadays, as Mana said, there is no Beis Hamikdash to be worried about, so they shouldn't have to. In other words, when is this halacha that the Kohen Hedjit have to take a haircut every 30 days? Mashmei Sagamar says that's when they're gonna have their service. If they're not gonna have their service, right? Is there such a halacha? Well, it'll be relevant. Why does the Kohen Head have to take a haircut every 30 days if he's not coming to serve in the Beis Hamikdash? The Gemara saying, "Ihaka afilo idna nami." Dumi the Shriyayim. Not Shriyayim is Mambia who the Aser Shleb is Mambia Shari Afachanami. So too over here. Over here, what? So Rashi says you're going to idna Shabayis Charav. V'leis Mambia. It's not a time of the Beis Hamikdash. There's no Beis Hamikdash today. So there shouldn't be an Isser on the Kahanim anymore. They should be able to take hair whenever they want. If they want to grow, their hair more than 30 days, it should be fine. Well, one second. When I'm not answering, when I don't have a 100% clarity on is what's the reason that the Kohen Hedjit has to take a haircut every 30 days? I understand the Melech is seen by the people. I understand the Kohen goes seen by the Anshe Mishra, Anshe Mammon, the Beis Av, everybody's seeing. But the Kohen Hedjit, he's only serving the Beis Hamikdash twice a year. 2 weeks of the year. He's serving a few, also by the Yom Tovim. Right? Then all the Mishmars have to come together. So every 30 days mashma, even during Cheshvan. During Cheshvan, there's no Yom Tovim. That's why we call it Mar Cheshvan. There's no Yom Tovim in Cheshvan. When's he come to Beis Hamikdash? If he doesn't have a Mishmar then at that time, then why would he come to Beis Hamikdash? Why does he have to do the 30 days then? No. When the Beis Hamikdash was around, forget what we built. When the Beis Hamikdash was around, why does the Kohen have to take a haircut every 30 days when the Beis Hamikdash was around? I understand around the Yom Tovim time. I understand when he has his Mishmar. I understand. But what about the regular rest of the year? By Cheshvan, if he doesn't have a Mishmar then, and there's no Yom Tovim, then why does he still have to do the 30 days? Okay, so you have to say it was done as some sort of a thing. Once you have it, it's always got to be done. Otherwise, it's too complicated. Because remember, there's Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, that whole. So there's basically 3 times a year, and then 2 other Mishmar. So there's at least 5 times of the year that he's going to have to be by the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, it's basically half the year almost. So you could be making a mistake if you're not careful. So you make a loy plug, you always have to take a haircut every 30 days. But says the Gemara, that only applies when the Beis Hamikdash was around. When the Beis Hamikdash is not around, why? Who cares? The same way, the Isser of Shriyayin, right? That's an Isser only when the Beis Hamikdash is around. We don't have the Isser of Shriyayin now because no Aveda. So there should be no longer an issue. That's the Gemara's response to the question. In other words, the Gemara asks, we should still have it as an Isser. Says the Gemara, no. It's Dumin Shriyayin. Shriyayin is not Asar Bizman Hazeh. So taking haircut should also not be Asar Bizman Hazeh. So Fred the Gemara now on this, we now have the same repeat of the Gemara that we had yesterday. For Tanya, Rabbi Eimer, Amrani got him assume l'shtasyayin la'ilam. Avamas is the konta kakolasai. Barabak mashos ve'idna kahane chamra. Here, Rabbi, turn the page. He's on him base, right? So in other words, the Gemara is asking now, but 1 second, you want to say the kahanim don't have to take a haircut now, right? Because what? It's no Beis Hamikdash. So the same way Yain is mutter. So they don't have to take haircuts every 30 days. They can take a haircut whenever they want. Fred the Gemara, but then we have a brisa. The brisa says that Rabbi says that kahanim are asur l'shtas yain le'olam. But what can I do? Nebuch. It's not going to work out such a takon. And Abai says that kahanim, whoever drinks today, which again we say maybe he didn't drink, so maybe there was some who were machmer. The kahanim shouldn't. The kahanim are able to drink nowadays, and so for that, if you're going to say that Rebbe is saying, Tanya, Rebbe is saying that it's really usher, but what can I do? I can't do anything about it. So therefore, for kahanim it's mutter. What does that teach me? That teaches me, says the Gemara, Michlal d'Rabbanan Asri. In other words, Rebbe is matir. He says really it should be usher, but what can I do? So Rebbe Lamaisa says it's mutter. But Rebbe coming along and saying it's mutter, the mashmayis is that somebody disagrees. And with Rabbeinu Chananel, it's beautiful. It comes out that the Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan say, no, really, Kahanim shouldn't drink it nowadays. So if we say the Kahanim shouldn't drink nowadays, then what does that mean about the haircuts? That means they should be taking haircuts every 30 days. It follows the two to go together. If you hold that the Kahanim are in fact permitted to drink wine nowadays, then you say, okay, they're permitted to let their hair grow long. They don't have to do it for 30 days. But if you hold now that there is another shita, Rabbi is disagreeing with the shita of the Rabbanan, who hold that in fact it's usher to be drinking wine nowadays. So then it should be also required for the Kahanim to take haircuts every 30 days, even Mizman Hazeh. That's what the Gemara is right now. So it says the Gemara, so if the Rabbanan, it's mashma that they're usher to drink wine nowadays, they don't hold the Rebbe that takanta kalkalasai. So my timer says the Gemara. Why is that? Because Meheri Yibana Beis Hamikdash, right? Because the Beis Hamikdash should be built right away. Right away. That was something that you see in Chazal. You see it all the time in the Rishonim. When you talk about the Beis Hamikdash, you say Meheri Yibana should be rebuilt, right? So so my time, Meheri Yibana Beis Hamikdash will be in a kind of very lavayna. The lega and Yidikain is going to be right to the lavayna, and you don't have it because he's not going to be appropriately coiffed. He's going to be missing the right coif. He's not going to have that hair. Yeah. So that's the Gemara. It's a fancy word. It's a hairstyle. Yeah. So says the Gemara. It's not coiffed. Quaff. That's drinking wine. Actually, that's cute. I never thought about that. It's pronounced the exact same word. Right. This is a question. You should see. I ain't haircuts. I never thought about it in English. Wow. Right. We have in this week's parsha one of those etymological words that are the same in Hebrew and English, right? The pasuk like tel olam, by voice of tel in English is the same. This week's parsha we have tur, like shuv mitura aretz, tur is the same thing in English and Hebrew, right? So here we're having a connection between shuyayin and haircuts, and literally huaf in English, the Quaff, I think, is about drinking wine, and coiff is about hairstyles. They're both pronounced quaff. Yeah, I can't dash in English, but there must be something there. All right, let's go. So Zad the Gemara. So my time, I'm here. You want to be something. This should be in the kind of real life. So says the Gemara. No. Come on. You want to tell me that it's also for Kahanim Esbanazet to go more than 30 days out of the haircut because the hair you bought not make this? Come on. It's quick. They can take a haircut. It's gonna take 2 minutes. It's not a problem. Right? They don't need to get a major hairstyle all day, whatever. They can do a 2-minute haircut, they'll be fine. Says the Gemara, so then, you know what? Why are you saying that the Rabbanah hold it's also nowadays to drink wine for the Kahanim? Let's say that it's okay for the Kahanim to drink wine, not with Rebbe, with the Rabbanah. The Rabbanah should also agree it's okay to drink wine nowadays. Why? Because after the Gani Port of Ayel. Because you take a little bit of a nap and then you come to the service. If you walk for a bit of a distance, right, or Vishina, or you have a Vishina Kolshu, or you have a stickle on doze, it gets, that takes away some of the drunkenness. You'll be able to do the service. So you don't have to make a whole issur according to Rabbanan that nowadays that the Kohanim can't drink wine because maybe basically they're coming, they'll be too drunk. You take a little walk, you take a little nap, and you'll be fine. So therefore, the same issue with the haircut, right? You take a little bit of haircut, you can come to the service. You don't have to make all these gzeres. Maybe they won't be right. They'll be right. It's fine. Says the Gemara. No. There's a big difference between being drunk and not having a haircut. What's the difference? Says the Gemara. No, we say that in the name of Rabbi Avu, that's when do we say that if you take a little walk or a little nap, that you will not be considered drunk? That's only if you drank a revius of wine, meaning a small measure of wine. But if somebody drank more than a revius, if somebody drank a nice, a lot, so then when he takes a walk, right, or if you're going to take a sleep, it's going to actually make him even more drunk. I don't know scientifically how this works, but perhaps somebody here has personal experience. You let me know. Meaning, if what he's saying is essentially, if somebody's drunk, if somebody's drank a lot and he's dancing, right, or he's walking, whatever, or he's going to sleep, he's going to be even more in a stupor, not less. Yeah. So I don't know scientifically. I have no idea. But that's what the opinion of Rabbi Barvua is, that if you drink a small amount, then a little bit of a nap, a little bit of a spatzir, you'll be able to go ice drunk, you'll be fine. But if you drink a lot, then it will not work, right? Then taking the spatzir is going to make you more drunk. Going to sleep is going to make you more drunk. Yeah. So if that's the case, then it's very different between that and taking the haircut. Because taking the haircut, whatever, it's not taking more of a haircut, taking less. Either way, the haircut's going to be quick. But the kain drinking now, all of a sudden you have to have a gezerah. The kain can only drink a revius or less. I mean, that's going to make the thing impossible to be able to police. Rav Rashi has a different reason. Rashi says no. There's another distinction. Rashi Yain the Machle Avodah goes to Rabbanon. Pri Rosh Le Machle Avodah goes to Rabbanon. There's a difference between, like when you ain't going to ruin the Avodah, right? There's a mitzvah in the Torah. Yain v'sheich al tesh after the Nadav and Avihu debacle. So the pasuk says, Hashem says to Aaron, Yain v'sheich al tesh. When you come to do the service, you cannot be drunk. It's an itzer on the kahana, a lav in the Torah. So if you come in to do the Avodah when you're drunk, you mamash mimchal the avodah. If you come to the Beis Hamikdash with your hair unkempt, is it a chil of the avodah in the same way like you're drunk? The Rashi is not the same thing. And since it's not the same thing, you can't say they made the same gezerah. It's not the same gezerah. In other words, according to what we were just saying, that we wanted to say that there's a fundamental difference between the haircuts and the wine. So the Gemara says, well, what's the fundamental difference? A shtickle walk and a shtickle sleep. It's the same. So no, it's not the same because that's only working for a small bit of wine, and you can't police that. Meaning, anybody who drinks more than that small tiny bit is not going to help them a spatzir or a nap. So if that's the case, then it's fundamentally different than a haircut, right? So by a haircut, it's a small minor thing, so no problem. But drinking is a major thing. Says Rashi. Another way to distinguish it is when you go do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash drunk, you're mashmish mechal the avodah. So over there, we want to have a gezerah against it. So we would say that according to the Rabbanan, it's also for the Kohanim to drink wine bisman hazeh. Shemi banav is the mikdash. But you can say it's a chil of the avodah if you have a chip, and maybe it's a chil of other things. But it's not a chil of the avodah. That's what my elementary school Rebbeinu said, right? Yeah. So it's not the same thing. You can't consider the same kind of a chulin. And therefore, since you can't consider the same time of chulin, according to Rav Ashi, it's another distinction between suyayin and the kohanim taking a haircut. Sorry. Meisvei, Fred Gemara. Ve'elu hein. I'm sorry. Ve'elu shehein b'misa. Fred Gemara. Is this true that you're making such a distinction between suyayin and pri rosh that they can't be comparable? Is that true? Ve'elu shehein b'misa. What is the situation? The people who are going to be chayav misa kohanim are going to be chayav misa. Suyayin u'pri rosh. And it equates them. It says both Yain and Purei Rosh are going to be people who are going to be Chayav Misa for not doing the Avodah appropriately. Again, this is Misa B'dei Shemaim. I'm not talking about Misa like by Bezdin, right? But if they don't approach the Beis Hamikdash to do the Avodah in an appropriate way, the Chayav Misa B'dei Shemaim. And you see Purei Rosh is on the list. Says the Mar Bishlam, Yain Behedjek Sibur. I understand Yain. The Pasuk says Yain Sheikh Al Teish. El Purei Rosh Minol. How you know Purei Rosh are going to be Chayav Misa B'dei Shemaim? The Siv Roshim Lo Yigalechu Uper Lo Yishalechu, because this pasuk in Cheskel that we just mentioned before. Uchsiv Bashav Yain Lo Yishtu Kol Kain B'Var Melchatz Panimis. Later on over there in Cheskel says that they can't drink wine the kind when they come to do the service. Ve'itzkish Purei Rosh Yain. You see the pasukim there in Cheskel are comparing the Purei Rosh to the Yain. Mash Yain Misa Purei Rosh Misa. So you see, you get the same Misa B'dei Shemaim for both. So you, Rav Ashi, or you, Rabbi Barfu, are making the distinction between Purei Rosh and Yain. There's no distinction. There's no distinction. They're both treated the same. Says the more we know, but from here we're learning out. He must Yain the Machle Avodah. Purei Rosh the Machle Avodah. We're going to make a comparison and say, look, it's just like the Yain is making the chulin to the Avodah. So too, somebody comes without the right haircut. He's making a chulin to the Avodah, right? I might have listened to Rabbeinu if they would have brought this Gemara down. I was like 8 years old, but they didn't. They just said, chill, glorious. Not let it happen, yeah? Okay, so the Gemara, Amar Ravina Larashi. So what did Ravina say back to Rav Ashi? HaMekami das Yecheskel man Amra. So Ravina asked Rav Ashi, 1 second. Before this happened, this nice, interesting Gezer Shava, which we learned from Sefer Yecheskel. How did we know this idea that Purei Rosh can be comparable to Yayin? Amalei, meaning he's asking as a question. Meaning you can't compare it. You can't learn out something new from the Navi, from the Divrei Kabbalah that you didn't know from the Chumash. They can't be mechadish the Navi and not let him be mechadish new mitzvahs. So Rav Ina is asking Rav Ashi, how could you do that? How could you say that this is some new halacha that we learned from Yechezkel that we don't know from Teres Moshe? So Amalei. So Rav Ashi responds, this is not really a question. It's a famous line that we don't know something from Teres Moshe, but we learn that from Navi. What is that? Another pasuk there in Yechezkel that says, somebody who's a ben necher, somebody who's not having a bris, etc., is not able to come into the Beit Meisav Mikdash. Where do we know this halacha about the Ar Lev? The oral basar is not allowed to come to Beis Hamikdash beforehand. El Gamar, Gamirlo, he already had a tradition about it. Yechezkel came along and brought in a pasuk. It wasn't a chiddush. He just put a connection to it, but it was always the aside that we had a tradition on. So too, we had a tradition that a Pri Rosh is comparable to a Yain. That is, the Kohen has to be taking a haircut, and if not, it's considered a chulun to the Avodah. And we came along to the pasuk. That's what Yechezkel did. So we'll come out then, according to the sheet of the Rabbanan, that Yain will be also nowadays. So Pri Rosh also, the Ganim should also, even nowadays. Again, we don't pass like that. We go with Rebbe. We go with Rebbe and we don't hold the Yain. So presumably, therefore, we also don't have the Ganim being makbid either on the 30 days. Sorry, I'm going to have to stop here.